All righty, everybody. So welcome back. So we are getting close to the end of the semester. So I know everyone, especially those who are graduating, are getting some good senioritis kicking in. And I know finals and all sorts of things are coming up quickly. So we appreciate all of you taking the time to jump on. So tonight we actually have our last company information session for the semester. So I know sad tear on that, but excited because we have such a great company coming in to kind of close out the semester in a bang. So we really are excited. So in terms of the session tonight, we're with one of these companies that if you haven't heard of them before, right, maybe you've been living under a rock somewhere. So when we talk about Office Depot, right, you've probably seen it at your street corner. That's usually your to-go place when we're talking about anything to do with office supplies. But what you may not know is their corporate headquarters is right down the street from us here in Boca. And we actually have several, we were just talking about before the session started, several of our MIS alums that work at Office Depot and several that have interned. And we actually had Office Depot set up to present last semester, but because of COVID, everything got screwed up and we weren't able to do it. So we're so excited to be able to have them back again this semester. So without any further ado and taking more time, can we give a nice warm MISA virtual round of applause for our team from Office Depot?
Awesome. Thank you so much for that awesome introduction, Jonathan. I'm going to take you everywhere to all of my meetings now. Or I'm just going to take this recording and play it in front of any time I come on a meeting. But thank you so much. Excited to be here. My name is Katie. I am the University Programs Manager at Office Depot. As Jonathan said, we were scheduled to be with you all last year, and unfortunately it had to get canceled. So very excited we were able to do this year and brought Dan with us and my colleague Rich. So just to go through some housekeeping. So I'm going to do just a brief overview of Office Depot. As Jonathan said, if you haven't heard of us before, we'll go into all those details of everything we sell, but kind of give you an idea of our transformation we're going through now. Then we're going to hear from Dan, who is a senior manager on our information security team, and he's going to do and kind of present on, a bit about his role, his journey to Office Depot, and maybe some of the neat projects he's got going on. And then, of course, open the floor up to hear any and all questions from you guys. I've also brought my colleague Rich with me as well today, and Rich is a recruiting team and talent acquisition, specifically within technology, our product and technology team. So he's here to assist with any and all questions you may have there. So what is Office Depot, or ODP Corporation? So ODP Corporation, we're the leading provider of business services products, digital workplace technology solutions to small, medium, and enterprise-sized businesses. So we have several banner brands under the ODP Corporation. So of course we have Office Depot, Office Max. Office Max we acquired a handful of years back. Also Grandin Toy is a banner brand of ours. Grandin Toy is not a toy store. It took me several months of working here to figure that out. I got a little sad when I found that out. Grandin Toy is just office supplies in Canada. So just think of what we do, but up in Canada. So also CompuCom, which is a technology solutions provider, which is a company we recently acquired. And then very recently, very excited to announce the acquisition of BuyerQuest, which is just a huge piece to the puzzle in our digital transformation. So looking over to the left-hand side, you'll see really kind of what the ODP ecosystem looks like. So we've got the global sourcing and supply chain abilities, that go-to-market ability, and that engine driver behind it. And then, of course, that broad spectrum of products and services to offer to our customers. So some key dates in our history going back to 1986, before I was born. We opened our very first store in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yes, we are a homegrown company. So we started with brick and mortar stores, and again, it was in Fort Lauderdale, our very first one. Speed up to 88, we go public. 95, we're up to 500 stores. Soon after, we launched our very first website. Going into the early 2000s is when we opened our global headquarters in Boca. And that is actually really down the street from your campus, the Boca campus of FAU. It is walking distance, I'll say. It's a hike, but we're right there on the other side of 95. Then in 2014, Office Depot, Office Max merged. And then 2017, Jerry Smith, our current CEO, came on board. And Jerry was brought on board to really, transform our business. We knew that and we know the business world and the working world is changing, and we need to change along with it. Jerry comes from actually a technology background. And so he was, and is, I'd say, an amazing choice to bring us into that digital transformation that we're making. So speeding up into 2017, we acquired CompuCom to broaden our services offering to our products and services abilities. We then expanded more into our economy and then also co-working spaces. And then recently, actually last year, we announced that Terry Leeper joined the organization as our Chief Technology Officer. Again, to really drive that change and the pivot towards a completely B2B services platform. A few months ago, Princess Wilson joined our team for BCom, and then very, very recently, as I mentioned, was our acquisition of BuyerQuest, all of which, is really what's driving the key changes this year. So how are we doing in that digital transformation? So again, we've had some really big key hires within the B2B and technology space that will bring that industry expertise that we need. Also accelerated the technology development with the acquisition of BuyerQuest and also a partnership with Microsoft. So some of our focus areas for this year is, again, maximizing our B2B revenue growth, building out our supply chain and supply chain as an actual service. We have one of the largest supply chain networks in all of North America and actually can reach over 98% of the US population next day. And so looking into and turning that into, how do we create that as a service and sell that as a service to our customers, which will drive our driving our digital transformation growth. And then of course, optimizing CompuCom to create and drive shareholder value. I'm going to leave this to the end, but these are some careers in computer science, and we can certainly put this back up once we open it up for Q&A, but I want to make sure I give Dan enough time to present on his role and his journey to Office Depot. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Katie. All right. Let's see here. Share screen. Yes, let's do that. All right. Hi, everyone. Let's get this started. All right. So who am I? My name is Dan Palomini. And as we were talking, there are some additional MIS alums here. I am actually a FAU MIS alum, class of 09. And to top that off, I am also a MISA alum. So I was on the other side of the screen. I was a MISA student. I went to some of the MISA meetings, and I will tell you right here, right now, every single person that is virtually here is winning. I'm going to kind of explain through part of the career talks that I'm going to give why being here, being with MISA and MIS is so important. I have some letters after my name in terms of certifications, and I am a part of a bunch of different organizations. Couple that I'll point out are OWLSEC. I was the founder of the FAU Information Security Club that I guess maybe it was around for a year and a half. I'm the president of our South Florida Information Systems Security Association chapter, which I'll briefly talk about in a little bit, but it's a great place, and we have some FAU students as members, and some other organizations as well. So that's kind of who I am, and what you need to know is I am a tech enthusiast, like a lot of my colleagues at Office Depot. So I kind of got my career started at FAU. Um, and over here, go Owls. I don't know. Oh, yeah, go Owls, obviously. So I'm a tech enthusiast, started off kind of at FAU, right? And one of the things that, when I interview people, and whether it's for a college or more, is what have you been involved with? So for me, I actually started in the FAU radio station. I did the engineering for that. And then I wound up working for the Office of Information Technology. I worked with all the staff, but not the faculty. Um, from there, I did computer support, got to kind of talk to, oh man, probably 1,500 different staff members over the years. And set up I set up the technology in our stadium and some of the technology that was previously used to do your meal plans and paying for your lunches. Went over from there to the FAU College of Medicine. It was pretty new at that time and really helped get that off the ground. They really integrated a lot of great digital technology in the classrooms and in the learning experience. We actually developed an iPad program, and we were able to deliver a lot of the education mobilely in a new fashion to get our FAU Med students out into the residencies and into really their careers. So we built that out. So, having all that experience, and let me tell you, starting off at just even, any kind of a position where you're working with people and you're gaining in your knowledge, whether that is an internship, it is extremely important. When you get out of school, it's incredibly important to have some sort of real world experience, even if it's volunteer, right? So if it's a volunteer or if it's an internship, internships are great, and we can talk about more about Office Depot later. But from there, I went to our threat and vulnerability area in Office Depot, and what that team did is they're the ones that are looking out for all the hackers. They're the ones that are, monitoring what's going on our networks, making sure that things are safe and secure, as well as dealing with the things that may happen, right? So, there's 35, 40,000 people at Office Depot. Don't quote me on that number. So, a lot of things, do or could happen. So I managed all the incidents. And then also, people love to not update, but sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So I did vulnerability management, all the servers, everything. There are patches that come out. If you update them, great. If you don't, not so great. But we have a program that does that. I led that whole program. Right now, I moved over to the management side and managing part of our InfoSec team. But I wanted to tell you kind of why I went to Office Depot. There was a couple things that really stuck out to me when I said, "Hey, I've been working at FAE for quite some time, and I am looking a place to go to." And a few of the things were our 5C culture, which Katie briefly touched on. And really, the cool thing is 5C culture, creativity, caring for the customer. Some of those aspects about that culture make Office Depot a really great place to work. Other things that I really liked was the team, the people I work with, and my other colleagues in IT. Um, I have never. It's a really great place to work. Another thing is being as big as we are, we get to work on some pretty incredible projects. So when you have a larger company, there are those opportunities to really work on those cool projects, and honestly make an impact. Right? You can make an impact, and you could have an idea, and you say to your leadership, "Hey, I think we should do this, or we want to do that." And some of those projects you wind up working on can really make a big difference. Also, the leadership at the company, I personally really am aligned with a lot of the things that the vision of the company, what Katie was talking about. So for me, those are some of the things I really liked about Office Depot. But I want to tell you about my team and kind of the things we do, but I really can't do that until I kind of talk about what InfoSec is. And, so being an MIS major, I majored in management information systems with a focus in computer security and computer anyhow. So, but the thing is, people say InfoSec, and really the area of InfoSec is huge. There are a lot of different areas within the InfoSec umbrella. Security and risk management, something I was heavily in. Asset security, you know, a place like FAU, right? There's thousands of laptops, thousands of computers. You have to know about those assets. You have to know what you have before you can even secure. So there's people that work in that. Security architecture and engineering. So sometimes people want best practice advice. Hey, we're going to set up this system, and this system is going to talk to this other system, and this is how we plan on making those things talk. And so in the security architecture field, those are people that are kind of masters of understanding how things work and helping people design things that make sense, or that will work well, be secure. Network security, right? Our packets right now are going through a ton of different routers and networks. So there's firewalls, there's all those wonderful appliances that go through our network. So that's an entire area of security. One of the areas I'm in, identity and access management. So when you have a FAU account, right, you have your email, you have a password, but let's say you're a student, you can probably get to, I was going to say Blackboard, but use Canvas, I think. But like there, you have all these different systems, right? And as a student, you might get access to some of them. But now let's say as a faculty or staff, there's a lot more systems that as a student you might not need to use. So identity and access management, identity is the, hey, I have an account, I have a password. That's the identity, it's the person. That access management is, well, maybe I have the access to, edit somebody's grades. So I want to give that person, an A, a B, whatever. That access management component, when you start to scale it up, we have, I think, 10,000, no, more than that. We have like probably 15,000 different accesses that we can track. So access management in a larger company becomes an entire thing. In a smaller company, you might not necessarily need to do all that, but when you really scale it up, access management becomes a huge thing. Security assessment and testing. So we set up some sort of a system, and we think it's good, we think it's secure, but like as is known, a penetration test, right? A pen test, and you want to make sure, hey, this thing we think we did, does it really perform the way we hope it did? And a lot of times you'll hear that as red teaming, or like in the movies, right? That's the people that are trying to hack into the things. But sometimes it's really important to know, whether the thing that you set up is what you think. Security operations and software development security. So software development security is extremely important, because if you think about it, if your apps aren't secure, the entire thing is going to kind of crumble. So kind of, not in a nutshell, but those are a lot of the major highlighted areas that are actually a part of information security. And really, people wind up going into little niches of an area, or more broad. At smaller companies, you might actually be doing kind of all these things. The other thing I want to point out is, within information security, it's really everybody's job. So whether you're actually employed by information security, or you're a sysadmin, or a desktop support, or just an end user, it's everybody's job. And that, if you have an interest to get into some of these areas, and you can probably contact myself or somebody else after, and we can help you get more into this area.
So Dan, I'm just going to jump in really quick.
Cool.
Can you just adjust your view, because we can see on the side like your slide up to 4.
Oh.
So I think it's just showing your presenter side. So
I
I'm
don't
thinking,
know why it's doing that. Good question.
so I'm thinking maybe if you change out of presenter view where it says monitor, and then, or maybe you slide it over, because you may have two screens, and so that's why
I
it's showing.
actually, I do have two screens. How about this? How about
Or if you just go full screen
there?
from that one. Oh yeah,
Yeah, how
or
about
you just
that?
shuffle through there. That works perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. Thank you for pointing that out.
Uh,
So
you were on a roll, so I couldn't stop you.
that's all
So
good.
I figured that was a good pause point where I could jump in.
Thank you, sir. So Office Depot, our InfoSec team, we have just about over 50 people on our team alone. And that breaks down to threat and vulnerability. So that's the things where we have those vulnerabilities and threats and incident response. We have our SOC, our Security Operations Center. 24 hours a day, they're watching over what is going on at the company and just making sure that everything looks good. When things might look a little bit unusual, they're going to be the ones that investigate and find out what's going on. Um, Security operations and access control. That's part of my team. And again, we're providing access, making sure identities look good, compliance. So I couldn't believe how much there is into compliance, but as like FAU's medical school as an example, or a hospital, you have healthcare, so HIPAA, a publicly traded company like us, we have Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX. So there's all sorts of different compliance frameworks that you might, or FAU as an example, FERPA, so the Family Educational, I don't remember the rest, but it's very important for protecting student information and student privacy. And with let's say new laws coming out like California Consumer Privacy Act, etc. So compliance. And then we also have that security architecture team that really helps the different sysadmins, business areas, and whatnot design something that is secure and makes sense. And they're there as an architect and somebody that can help drive those processes to make sure they stay secure. So we have a number of, this is like a small fraction of some of the projects that just our teams are working on. And really something that's cool about, I would say a larger company, kind of like Office Depot, is you get thrown in and there's a lot of projects to go around. There's always something going on. And with buyer quest and some of the other things that we're working on, there's a lot of areas for project upon project to go and do cool things. So some of the things that my teams are working on, automated detection and response. So sometimes there's a lot of manual things. So we see something that we think is bad. Well, what do? And one of what we're doing is we're finding the bad stuff, and then we're automating and scripting some of those responses, so some of those initial first steps. So maybe, if you think you saw something bad on the network, do we kick off an antivirus scan on a machine automatically? Or, hey, I noticed that you have an employee that, doesn't work here anymore, yet their account is still on. Well, let's go ahead and clean that up. Let's shut it down. So we do a lot of looking at data modeling, data analytics across millions of data points. And we're searching through those data points, and we're coming up with ways to automatically fix things. That way it doesn't become a problem later. If you have the machine doing it and it's scripted, it saves me time. I don't have to do it. So we have a lot of areas. More automation. I can't tell you how much the company as a whole is driving towards cloud and automation. Because why would I want to go and do all the work when I can program the machine to do the work for me? Other things, we have a tool that we call Access Depot, and what it is it's a center where you can request access. Well, in the background, we actually are like a tentacles, and we're going into 8 different systems: legacy mainframe, legacy IBM AS400, Active Directory. We have like tentacles into every possible system, and we're able to tell those systems to go provision access or do things or look up all that. A big project that I'm going to be starting on is cloud password management. So you have your, let's say, Microsoft Azure, and you have applications that use passwords. We actually are going to have, again, tentacles into those things to go in and retrieve passwords and update passwords. So that's a lot of API level programming that we're doing. We're also taking advantage of just, cloud services, but it's cool because when we interface with all the different systems, we get to be involved with all of the different IT and business projects in the company because, hey, we want to integrate with you. We want to integrate with all these things. So it's cool because then you get to interface with all the different areas of the business and you're not just siloed in some IT silo. Protecting ourselves, right? So we have a lot of traffic to our website, and we put web application firewalls to protect, some of the known threats and vulnerabilities that get thrown against us, or a distributed denial of service. Those frequently, we'll see traffic starting to get thrown at us, and luckily, we have those providers in the back end that are helping us mitigate, the different attacks that come our way. Also, a lot we do with phishing. So on the creative side, we think of ways to give our employees to actually kind of give themselves up and fall for the fish, give up their own passwords. So we have a lot of training opportunities. We create what we call campaigns in our area where, hey, you might have gotten won a new iPad or something, but we try to theme them, and we do it as a way to educate our associates about the risks of, hey, what is phishing? I'm sure you hear a lot about phishing, but I'm going to throw some random number out, but 70% probably of all breaches start with phishing. We're actually enhancing antivirus, so we're heavily involved in that, in machine learning based detection, and Splunk. So I've talked about automation. Automation is key. Automation, scripting. So my team does a lot with Microsoft PowerShell. But aside from automation, reporting. So like I said, we've taken a lot of our data points and indexed them all together, and then we're able to query all those data points. Hundreds of millions of data points per day. We're able to design reports that then show us problems. And to me, that really comes to why I love MIS majors. MIS majors are awesome. And part of the reason, right, is even like an InfoSec, right, there's a lot of business acumen that you need to have. And sometimes people that are strictly IT may not be able to focus on the business areas. And a lot of the MIS major classes, accounting, and all those things that you might take for granted, when in the professional world, for me, it's really made it, a strength to be able to have that when you're working on these projects. So you can take your IT knowledge, combine that with things like reporting and the projects. I wanted to go into something real quick, which is networking. We all love networking. We're here, right? We're all here at the MISA meeting. That's a great opportunity to meet your peers. You form those networks, you form those associations. There's a couple organizations in South Florida for security specifically. One is the one I'm over, which is South Florida Information. It's just too long. Anyhow, SFI is to say it's a good place to learn about security. If you're a student, just find them and attend the meetings. ISC Squared is another good one. And then there's some also professional ones. Tech Lauderdale and Palm Beach Tech are also two local ones. I'm going to finish it off by talking about certificates. Now, as a student, right, a lot of times people say, well, let's say I don't find that internship or whatnot. I want to get a certificate. There's a couple that really are, well, I'll say revered. And I want to take that and focus this on students. So Security Plus is a great way in the door. Now, everybody in the security world throws around the CISSP. It's kind of the gold standard of certifications in our security world, but it does have an experience requirement. You have to have a number of years of on-the-job experience in different areas. So kind of as a college student, you might have said, I thought about getting that, but I can't. Well, it turns out there's actually this thing called the Associates of ISC Squared, which is exactly the same test. And you take it, you pass it, and you get the Associates of ISC Squared. So it's the same exact thing as a CISSP, but it doesn't have that experience requirement, which means that as a college student without that professional experience, you'd be able to get the certification. Another good one, if you want to work really hard and spend a bunch of money, is the Security Essentials from GSEC. But then speaking about spending money, there's a ton of resources that I love people to go to outside of your classes. Cyber, Udemy, Coursera, and just stuff on YouTube. Also, I can tell you different security conferences. There are B-Sides. B-Sides is a community founded conference. Typically, you might see cost being $20 or $40. And a lot of times for students, like, so I'm a part of B-Sides Orlando on their board. It's totally free for students. So all you'd have to do is drive up to Orlando, maybe have some people get a hotel room or whatever, but, or drive up, drive down. We have a lot of FIU, and FAU students that come up. ISSA does one, and Nova at, well, formerly at Nova, IT Palooza. So there's a lot of areas where you as a student can get that networking, because I want to leave it with this. How I made that journey to Office Depot was I was at one of my meetings, one of my security meetups, and somebody said to me, hey, guess what? I'm hiring. And I know you, I've talked to you, and I think you'd be a good fit. Would you be interested in joining? So these kind of things that we're at here today get you to meet other people in that area, or potentially professionals, all those kind of things. So coming here to MISA really will help you get that job you're looking for. So with that, I think I've talked enough. It's 5:49. And with that, I'll stop sharing. Katie?
That was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, great job, Dan.
Thank you.
See if I can screen share. Uh-oh. I did so good the first time screen sharing. Let's see. I did it. Cool. All right. Cool beans. So some of the, just wanted to highlight before we go into the Q&A, some of the opportunities within the computer science field in careers at Office Depot. So we have opportunities within UI, UX design developers, Java developers. When you come on board to the team, Dan, mentioned that it's very much a team environment. They also, you say practice? Is that what you say? Practice Agile and Scrum? Do Agile and Scrum? I don't know what the. Okay.
Yeah, either.
We'll go practice. Either. Oh, cool. Okay. And then we are currently virtual, but we do have physical locations in Boca, Austin, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which when we are able to physically be together, those will be the locations. Do I have, let me see. All right, so Q&A time. So we've got Dan, Rich, and myself here to answer any and all questions. So do you normally just leave this open, Jonathan? What's the normal?
Yeah, so what I'll do,
box?
I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and then what we can do is